We all know that starships are meant to fly, but given that this one is coming from SpaceX, you can expect it to be a step above the rest. After all, not only is it one of the most technologically advanced spacecraft out there, but it's expected that this ship will be able to transport up to 100 metric tons of cargo from Earth to locations such as the ISS, the Moon, and Mars. And despite all of the hype over SpaceX's Starship having the potential to be so incredible, there's still a lot that people don't know about this spectacular spaceship. So today, we're gonna give you the top 10 things to know about SpaceX's Starship on this episode of Super Freaky Science. To stay updated on our latest videos, don't forget to subscribe. At first glance, you may be confused as to why SpaceX even bothered to create the Starship. After all, they've already sunk billions into creating other cargo vehicles, such as the Falcon 9 and the SpaceX Dragon 2, making the Starship seem a little redundant. However, in 2017, Elon Musk dispelled these fears by claiming that he hopes the Starship will one day completely replace the Falcon 9 and SpaceX Dragon 2. Why, you may ask? Well, in short, this strategy is all centered around costs. That's because the Starship will likely not have to use any boosters to get into orbit, meaning that fuel costs can likely be cut to as low as $900,000 per launch, while total launch costs could drop as low as $2 million. And when we're talking about space travel, that's a really good deal. This would make it extremely economical, and if this launch price can be met, the Starship really may become the world's standard space cargo vehicle. In order to ensure that the Starship costs as little as possible while keeping performance to a maximum, SpaceX has upped the ante by having two design teams compete against each other in order to make the best version of the Starship. And although they are cooperating to an extent, the hope is that by creating a competitive atmosphere, not only will two viable Starship designs be created, but that ideas will be tested quickly and taken forward if they work and scrapped if they don't, leading to fast yet effective development. And luckily for SpaceX, as of now, this seems to have worked, as they hope to launch their first rendition of the Starship by as early as 2021. As of now, the development of the Starship has been divided into two stages, and while both are often called the Starship due to them both being part of the Starship program, the first stage of the program is to in fact create a ship that SpaceX calls the Super Heavy, with the plan being that it will be the second stage that will be known as the Starship. And while both have many of the same specs, the hope is that the second stage will be a step above the already advanced first stage. One of the key factors that makes the Starship an attractive option is that it's not a single-use rocket, but rather one that, in true SpaceX fashion, will be able to be used over and over again. And although it's not 100% certain that the first Starship will be fully reusable, the hope is that the second rendition will be, as this will be a major factor in reducing the cost per flight. In order to do this, a number of often non-reusable parts have to be refined. These parts include, but are not limited to, the creation of a restartable ignition system so that multiple flights can be attained, new attitude control technology so that re-entry through the atmosphere causes less damage, and also the hypersonic grid fins so that landings can be accomplished with more precision. In tandem, it's the hope that these innovations will allow for a completely reusable Starship sooner rather than later. Unsurprisingly, countless innovations have been made thanks to SpaceX's work on the Starship, yet one of the simplest and most fascinating has been the use of stainless steel. You see, the status quo when building spaceships has typically been to use carbon fiber for the outside body, since stainless steel has not been used in spacecraft construction since some early ill-fated attempts during the Atlas program in the late 50s made many believe it was not a viable material. However, after extensive testing, SpaceX discovered that due to its high chrome nickel content, stainless steel remains extremely strong at both cryogenic temperatures that are as low as -200 degrees Celsius and extremely hot temperatures that are as high as 870 degrees Celsius, therefore beating out carbon fiber in terms of performance. Additionally, it turns out that it's also much easier to work with, since it's much more malleable while being used in construction. Yet best of all, due to carbon fiber costing about $135 per kilogram, while stainless steel only costs about $3, it's a no-brainer that stainless steel is certainly the right way to go. And if you think that's impressive, you're not going to believe what happened during SpaceX's Starship test flights. Stick around for number 1 to get the inside scoop. If SpaceX is to be believed, they're confident that the Starship can be used to service practically any piece of present or future space infrastructure currently in place. In particular, they envision the Starship being used to resupply satellites, the International Space Station, the Moon, and Mars. The hope is that the Starship will be able to deliver satellites to locations far beyond Earth's orbit, allowing for human satellite development around the orbits of both the Moon and Mars. Regarding the ISS, SpaceX plans for the Starship to deliver cargo of various payloads, allowing for much more efficient resupplies. And most impressively of all, the Starship is designed to carry both building supplies and humans, allowing it to be used in the creation of colonies on both the Moon and Mars. As a result, it's clear that the Starship will be one of the most well-rounded spacecraft out there. The Starship has the potential to be used as a private commercial vehicle that could be both extremely popular and extremely profitable. And thus they already hit the ground running when in September of 2018, they announced that fashion innovator and globally recognized art curator Yusaku Maezawa would be the company's first private passenger. And he's set to fly around the moon in 2023. Planned to be done as part of a week-long mission, it will act as an important test run in analyzing the viability of launching greater quantities of people into space. Yet considering that Mr. Maezawa is a billionaire and the cost of the trip has been kept as a closely guarded secret, it may be a while before spaceflight will be a viable vacation option for the average person. Any high-tech spacecraft is bound to be made with incredible parts, and the Starship is no exception. However, it's worth mentioning that its engine really does stand out. Known as the Raptor, it's a reusable Methalox staged combustion engine that powers the Starship launch system. Coming in with a diameter of 1.3 meters, a height of 3.1 meters, and a thrust of 2 meganewtons, it's truly a strong engine. But its value to the scientific community does not end there. That's because after testing began on the Starship prototype rockets in July of 2019, their successful use made them the first full-flow staged combustion rocket engine ever flown, making this piece of tech a true pioneer in its field. As a result, we wouldn't be surprised if the Raptor begins to see widespread use in most of SpaceX's vehicles. While many cargo carriers have strict limits as to how long or wide an object being brought up into space can be, the Starship stands apart for having a roomier storage compartment than all of its competition. That's because it can fit objects that are up to 9 meters in diameter and up to 22 meters long. To put that into perspective, that's the equivalent of one intact in-space demonstration spacecraft, 1 to 3 geosynchronous telecom satellites, 1 full constellation of small satellites, or even 1 large observatory. As a result, the Starship really could revolutionize what can or cannot be brought up into our galaxy. It goes without saying that there are usually big question marks surrounding test flights. After all, it's often nearly impossible to have one go completely as planned, since there usually seems to be some unforeseen errors that, while minor, can lead to some major repercussions if not addressed right away. However, the Starship stands apart due to its first test flight having gone perfectly. Occurring on April 5th of 2019, it was a tethered hop with height limits, as SpaceX primarily wanted to test the viability of the spacecraft. Going completely as planned, SpaceX has since had 2 other test flights, with both of them being a success. As a result, we have no doubt that the Starship will continue to perform well for many flights to come. That's all we have for you today, and thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments down below whether you think the Starship is the next big thing in spaceflight. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so that you'll never miss out on another episode of Super Freaky Science. Until next time, we'll catch you on the next one.